Hello, welcome to the Realist Idealist podcast. I am your spiritual guru, your energetic guide, but I ain't your mother. You got to do some things on your own. Anyway, I'm Brenna, and joining me as always from across the pond, the yang to my yin, Stags Woodward. Ayo.
Ayo, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. It's a little bit chilly over here in Derbyshire, England at the moment, though. But it's good. I'm excited. There's energy in the air.
Yeah. So we are going to be talking about energy healing today.
Oh.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? How are you feeling about that?
I know virtually nothing about it, but it sounds incredibly exciting. So I'm looking forward to this.
Okay.
As always, I'm a blank slate.
We're probably going to dig a little bit into shadow work too. I don't know if you know anything. Obviously, I don't think you know much about that. Am I correct?
Probably not. Yeah, I can guess maybe, but I'm very open to learning.
Okay. All right. So today we'll be talking about energy healing, like I said, to help create balance in your life. I'm sure we'll also touch on shadow work, which I mentioned, which is quite honestly, I believe, kind of go hand in hand with energy healing. So today we have the Reiki practitioner, oracle, and spiritualist, Jamie Mendez of Magickal Me and Oracles of the Light, joining us, kind of parse through what it all means, energy healing. So welcome, Jamie Mendez. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here with everyone.
Hi, Jamie.
All right.
Hi.
So I would like to go into like the different types of energy healing and everything, but right now, I think for the sake of any beginners listening or watching, what is energy healing?
That's quite a big question. So it's like you said, there are many different types of energy healing modalities that are out there, and you can work, with energy in many different ways. But what it really breaks down to is it's energy-based healing. And so everything within the universe is energy. Everything has energy. Everything has an energetic frequency. And so it's really a matter of the vibration or the frequency that we all resonate with. And so our energy can actually become a little denser. It can become chaotic. It can become lower, essentially, in vibration. And what that just means is that the higher you vibrate, the more in alignment you are with a harmonious flow of energy. So basically the point of it all is to work with your own energy field to raise your vibration and energy, to maintain a clear, harmonious flow of that energy. And so there are many different ways that you can do that. The first step is just being mindful, and really just having an understanding of what energy is and how we all really are vibrating at a certain frequency. And it's just being mindful of what we're vibrating at, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah. And you touched on something that I think is important as well, is understanding vibration, that everything has a vibration, everything has energy.
That's right. Yeah. And, and it's not like we can all go out and just like get on a scale and measure our vibration. It's not something that you can do. It's not easy, but I guess once you start becoming more mindful of, okay, everything is vibration, everything is energy, you honestly start to switch something on within your own energy field, and you start becoming more aware, you start becoming more mindful. So it's like paying attention to how you feel is the most important part of that, because what is going on within our energy is what's going on. It sends signals into what we're feeling emotionally, physically, mentally. So if you take kind of like check in with yourself and you kind of take stock in, how am I feeling today? And you don't feel the best, or you might be dealing with something super emotional, then you can start to do the digging, and it's like jumping down a rabbit hole. I'm just going to put that disclaimer out there that this is a rabbit hole, but an amazing one that really does lead to your own, just overall well-being, if you will.
Yeah. So some of the modalities you talked about, I know probably one of the most common ones that I think most people have heard of is Reiki. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. And I love that you actually just said it's one of the most common ones, because I have to tell you, and I'm going to be completely honest, full disclosure,
Go ahead.
that when I first started working with Reiki, I had absolutely no idea what it was. I never heard of Reiki, and many people did not. And at least in this area. So Reiki, I actually became certified as a practitioner in 2008. And then I later went on to, work through the different levels and get my master teacher's certification. But when I first started, it wasn't something that I was even drawn to working with. It was actually part of something that I was it just kind of fell into my lap, I guess you could say. I was more working on a bit of a pagan background, pagan journey, just exploring the whole, what is paganism, this whole path of connecting with nature and magic. And I was on that journey, and part of it just kind of fell into my lap. And so when I first heard of it, it did sound very woo-woo to me. I'm not going to lie. And I was like, I'm going to be able to do what with my hands? This is silly. But sure enough, experience is my best possible teacher. And I learned through experience the phenomenal things that can occur. So Reiki the word literally translates to energy. It's like energy light healing. And it's working with the universal light and the universal energy that exists within the universe. Now, it's referred to as a Japanese healing modality. And the reason for that is because Reiki is something that always existed. And, if you trace back to different cultures, different eras, you can see that energy healing was being worked with throughout the world, throughout many different cultures, and for, probably thousands of years, but it wasn't called Reiki. And it wasn't until about the 1800s that someone known as Dr. Yusui Mikao actually rediscovered the understanding of energy healing and Reiki, universal life force energy, and learned how to basically channel that energy and become a vessel for that energy. And so Reiki energy healers are actually, it's not them, it's not us who do this. We just become open as vessels to channel this life force energy to facilitate the overall healing and stress relief, if you will, even energetic balancing and alignment for others as well as for ourselves, because as a channel, you also are a recipient. So I started on that path, and so there are many different traditions. There's many different people. It's gone it's like whisper down the alley. It's kind of gotten changed along the way. How I learned is based in the Yusui tradition, but even it has become more of a modern. It's not based on the old tradition that took many years to learn, many years to master. Time is speeding up, and with that, so has the practice. But there are 3 different levels, and the first level is the physical. It's really about working with yourself, helping to get yourself in alignment. As the healer, it's important to make sure that you yourself are healing yourself. And so first level, you basically are attuned. There's an attunement process. It opens you up, kind of rewires all of your channels, all of your, I like to refer to it as like electrical cables, and how our kind of wires are all in there but crossed when we come into this world. So it basically opens you up, rewires, and attunes you to that frequency of universal healing. And as so, you actually have this flow of life force energy that goes through you and comes out of your palm chakras. So chakras are basically like vortexes of energy that we all, or wheels of light that we all have within us. And that might be like a whole nother topic, but it is very, very relevant to everything we'll be discussing today. So it comes out of your hands, and through your hands, it actually is able to channel into like a stream of energy, like a stream of fluid or a stream of light, just really moving through your hands into another person's energy field, which then goes directly into their own energy centers, known as their chakras, also moving through the energy pathways in the body. One thing about Dr. Yusoi Mikao is that he was, prior to moving into spiritual healing, he was an incredibly educated man. He was into the sciences. I want to say that if I'm not mistaken, he studied under like the Postmaster General or Secretary General or something in Japan. He studied Chinese medicine. He studied different religions around the world. I mean, this is a very educated man. And when he came upon this, there's a whole story behind it, but when he came upon this energy healing modality or way to use it, he really understood how it impacted our energy body based on his previous studies as well, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that first level is very much about working on the physical level. You can literally put your hands on somebody and help to move the flow of energy. There's no really long and short of it, but our energy does get blocked up through traumatic experiences, through just current, circumstances of your environment where you live, what we put into our body. So this enables us to move that blockage, move the energy, and get that flow going. And that just really facilitates your overall wellness. Level 2 is then the more remote healing, and it works on more of an emotional and mental level. And so when someone becomes certified in the second degree, they can begin to work with this energy remotely. They no longer have to be in person on the physical. And not only, so they can send this healing across space and time. And then it works not just on a physical body level with the recipient, but it works on their emotional level and their mental level, and anything that any traumas they might have been storing that are causing clogged and blocked energy. And then the third level is known as the master level, where people usually go on to become teachers. So pretty powerful stuff. And, I'm sorry if I went over a little bit with it, but it's trying to put a very big modality into a little short clip there.
Yeah. Oh, I understand. And I mean, my own experience with Reiki, where I started was, I was working on a paranormal show, and one of the ladies that worked on it with me, I noticed that I was really blocked up, and I was still fairly new to like all of this. And she did some Reiki on me, and it was just like, whoa, what was that you just did? And I didn't even really gravitate towards it too much until like my mom had pointed out, a friend of hers, his wife does Reiki. And I'm like, let me see about that. And I was getting it like done for myself. And then after a while, and how much it helped me, I'm like, you know what? I think this is something I need to do. So then I started learning. So that was an interesting journey that I had. Yeah. And I want to check in with Stags. Do you have any questions so far?
No, it's all really interesting. I mean, we established on a previous episode that my chakras might be a little bit blocked occasionally. I apologize for that. It might be hand in hand with being English. I'm not sure.
No. To be fair, I will say that most of us walk around with a blocked chakra or two, right. Yeah. Even us healers included. It happens. It's par for the core.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, because I've heard mention of Reiki, obviously you hear from time to time, but I really, that was all mostly new to me. So I'm kind of interested on you saying that, how it feels and things like that. And as you've learned that, is it something that it casts out all doubt and everything when you do it? You've gone, wow, this is really something that's working, or do you feel, is it sort of subtle, or is it? I'm fascinated. How does it manifest itself physically?
Well, for me personally, what's beautiful about Reiki is that the healer is also the recipient at the same exact time. So when so it's very much about that equal exchange of give and receive. So that's just beautiful and within itself. But when working on another client, for what I receive and what I experience during it, even when I work on just myself, is very much you can feel the energy flow. And I think it also depends upon, each person is different in the sense that some people are more energetically open and receptive. Those who tend to notice they might be a little bit more empathic, they'll have more of an experience than someone who isn't used to feeling, or isn't really, isn't very open to feeling energy, isn't used to feeling energy. But what they notice is that, some people get off the table and have immediate relief of any physical pain that they were feeling. And Reiki is a very intelligent life force. So it works even without the practitioner being there. So once the practitioner kind of turns it on and starts working with them, that energy continues to flow through them. And most of them, they feel it's like immediate recharging of your battery, where you just feel so relaxed, so relief of stress and heaviness. And many people actually get up off the bed and say, I feel like just a ton of bricks was just lifted off my shoulders. So it's almost like it's just releasing these layers of, that stuck, blocked, chaotic energy that we all don't realize that we're walking around carrying all the time. So some people experience tingling sensations and vibrations as it's happening. As I said, once you get to a certain level with where you're at practicing, you no longer even have to put your hands on a client at all. You can work in their energy field. And some people will actually say to me, they have their eyes closed and they know exactly where my hands are because they can feel the energy themselves. So, and I've had all walks of clients where some are just not open and receptive at all, but they're like, I'll just give it a try. And, sure enough, everybody tends to have some sort of an incredible experience that just, they feel really good afterwards. So you can continue to feel it even after your session.
Wow. Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah. And and so you're saying the level one was the physical level. Is that when do you actually lay on physically touch with that, and then you can, you don't have to, but what I do notice is because a level one practitioner doesn't get the full energetic transfer. So if we're talking in terms of like numbers, just because, and I don't know if you can really put a number on this, but it's said to be something like 20% of the energy transfer, of the full energy transfer from master to student. So at a level one, the amount of flow that you're channeling isn't the full stream, if that makes sense. And the reason for this is because it's very much about being adjusted over time versus just like, think about electrical circuits again. You're going to plug you right on into that full channel there. It's going to fry your circuit. So it just allows you to open up, start to rewire, acclimate and adjust. And then you get adjusted the more you go on. So someone who's only streaming let's say level one sort of flow, they're going to want to have their hands as close as possible to the physical body. And there's a little layer here that we call the etheric layer just above. And that is, they can affect energy right from there. And so sometimes I still do that, get guided. I've got to put my hands directly on someone's stomach because they're having an actual physical issue right there. And this will help better flow the energy. So does that make sense? Yeah, it does. I mean, it kind of feels sort of almost intuitive as well when I think about, like just just happened to have an ill, my mother's dog was ill a while ago, and there's the whole sense of I just felt like, well, what can I do? I'll sort of lay my hands on the stomach and hopefully that will soothe or something like that. So it kind of seems, I mean,
Very spot on, yeah.
I don't know if that's the same thing or if I'm just talking
It
nonsense.
absolutely is. And I love that you said that, because it brought up a great point of our natural instincts and what we naturally know what to do. Because think about whenever you get hurt, what's the first thing that you do? You grab it and you put your hands on it, right?
Yeah.
So everyone naturally has the ability to heal themselves, to heal their own bodies. Your body is so incredibly intuitive. And so, in your energy field, we naturally all have the ability to heal ourselves. The part of the attunement process that comes in is it's helping to open you up to become a receptor for this energy, a channel for this energy, versus pulling from your own energy field to heal something. When we pull from our own energy field, which is what we naturally all do, we can do this. It can tend to take too much. You can drain your own energy. Whereas Reiki, universal life force, does not do that, because it's not your own. So there's no end to universal energy.
Mm-hmm. And it also does work on animals. You can also do this with animals.
Absolutely. I'm not going to, say that it's my favorite thing to do, but it's kind of, I really enjoy working with animals. And the one thing that I love about working with Reiki is the remote aspect of it. Once you get that second level, that's the remainder energy transfer. So you now are capable of working across space and time, because remember, everything is energy. You can affect energy even remotely. So it's all about permission. We don't violate free will. Everyone has to have permission. But when you get the permission to work with an animal, that's the best way to do that. Is you're not taking them out of their home, in the comfort of their own home, where that makes them naturally on guard, very standoffish, uncomfortable. They're not relaxed. So working with animals remotely, just through like a Zoom call or a video chat, is amazing. And you don't even have to do that. You just get the information, you get the permission from the owner, or going into a whole nother topic, the animal's higher self, and then just sending with the intention of free will.
Wow.
So you did go there. So I do want to just for other people to kind of get an idea of what the higher self is, because I'm sure Stags is probably like, what?
I was thinking I really want to ask that question, but I'm not sure if I'm getting off topic.
I know, it's so hard to kind of not say these things, and it's like it's really all a big part of it,
Yeah.
The higher self, we all have. It's kind of like how I like to refer to it as like our oversoul. Our essence of, I don't know if you want to refer to it as source, your angelic self, that spirit aspect of you that is still with source in the higher realms. Whereas we are just, it's like our soul, our higher soul. And whereas we are the physical, our body is the physical vessel for our soul, right? So we have that higher essence, that higher soul self. And so if you, for example, with small children, you cannot get the permission, but you can connect into their higher self, asking their higher self through kind of like a meditative process, and just asking for a sign that you would get a yes or you would get a no. And if there's no sign, you don't receive anything, then all you do is just send it out. And if it's meant to be received, it goes. If it doesn't, it goes somewhere else to the planet that it's most needed to. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice.
So what other kind of, I know we touched on Reiki, but the other kind of modalities that you use for healing?
So one of my favorite modalities to work with in conjunction to Reiki, that's the thing that's great about Reiki. Reiki is like the base for everything. Once you've got Reiki, I feel like everybody in the world should be attuned to at least level 1, if not to go out and heal others, but for yourself. Because what it does, really opening you up on another, it opens you up consciously as well. But you can work with this in conjunction with every other modality that's out there. And crystal healing. I love crystals. Ever since I was little, I would get in trouble for coming home from school with pockets full of rocks and taking people's landscaping just because I loved the way they felt. And so later it would pay off because I work with crystals and rocks as part of my work. And so again, it comes down to frequency. crystals all have their own energetic vibration, and each crystal has a unique signature of how it can work with us metaphysically. And so some of the information that's out there is clearly based on interpretation, so I mean, that's there. So, but it's also, it's really been proven. I mean, I'll tell you, I found some experiences where someone will tell you hematite, known as a stone made of iron. It's like a very magnetic type of stone, but it's like, looks like a silvery boulder, right? It's meant for grounding. It's meant to help promote blood flow. Now, the red iron in it is connected to the understanding of, the blood flow, the iron with the blood. But anybody who picks up a piece of hematite, you're going to feel yourself drop right down into the earth here and feeling much more grounded. It feels much more heavy. So, I mean, some of these are tried and true, I also think that each crystal will work with you for what you most need. And it might be something that the next person has no idea about. It's not out there on Google, but that's because that crystal, it holds its own message. And this is more of an intuitive thing, connecting with it meditative wise, intuitively. But when crystals are placed on the body and in specifically with the energy centers, they work their magic. So you can kind of keep to the rule of thumb where each color of crystal associates with that color of chakra, but it's not always that, once you get a little bit more in connecting with them, they kind of tell you where they want to go. I see crystals as living beings, just like plants have a spirit, just like trees have a spirit. Everything is alive in nature. Crystals are part of the nature kingdom. So I do see them as having an essence. They have that vibration. And so it's a matter of matching the vibration in your own energy body to what you need. And it helps to shift your vibration. It helps to raise your vibration. It helps to move the energy through you, which also facilitates the moving of the blockage. So it's also one of those things that are very, it can be a little bit more complex, but it doesn't have to be. I think crystals tell you, crystals choose you. It's not the other way around. I think that you think, oh, wow, I really like this stone. I'm going to pick it up and get called to it. It doesn't work that way. It's you got called to it because it pinged you, and it's always what you need. And then when you're done with it, you move on to the next one. And then you become a crystal hoarding junkie and you have thousands of them before you know it. So really powerful.
Yeah. So I wore this today because I knew we were probably going to get into crystals. So I don't know if you can see this.
It looks kind of like
let me go.
Blue gold stone.
That's right. You got it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yep. Yeah.
Right,
I'm like,
you taught me this the other week. So the blue, that's the throat chakra. Am I right?
You got it.
Nailing it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I just wanted to, that's the one thing I've known so far. So I just wanted to get in with that.
You got it. Yeah. And the color of the blue also can shift chakras as well. So that blue gold zone being so dark blue, it can also connect with her third eye chakra, which is more of an indigo blue color at the third eye there. And it's also got the gold little flecks in it and stuff. So that can actually connect into her solar plexus at her stomach area, which is the yellow. So she can work with many chakras at once, just wearing a stone like that.
Nice. Well, yeah. I'm also making note of the other ones you just said then. So I'm like, okay. Gradually, I'll get the chakras eventually. I'm going to get them.
Yeah. And it sounds, a lot of it sounds so complex because you got to learn these fancy Sanskrit names, and you really don't have to. I mean, we start out, you're just like, all right, I remember the stomach chakra is yellow. And that's kind of how I teach, my clients when I'm working with them. Because if I just start spouting out like, solar plexus sacral, they don't always know what that is. So it's like, I'll say, the stomach chakra, the throat chakra, the heart chakra, base of your spine chakra, things like that, and then once you get that, you learn the names later.
So there are more complicated names that I don't know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And we're just pretty much saying the English names. Those aren't even the Sanskrit names like Muladhara and Vishuddha, and yeah, it can get tricky.
Wow.
Sounds fancy.
What was that first one you said?
Muladhara.
Wow, that sounds like a powerful chakra. Which one's that?
The root.
Right. Okay.
It is a powerful chakra.
Yeah.
It is a very powerful chakra. But Sanskrit in itself is very powerful. I mean, the vibration of saying sounds amazing, but it's actually frequency that's coming out of those words that's assisting in the healing process too. It's pretty phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
So I know you
crystals.
Also crystals, and I know you kind of also do some work with sound healing, correct?
Yes. I do a little work with sound healing. My business partner, Karen, who works with me at Oracles of the Light, she is a sound and energy healing therapist. So her main wheelhouse and focus is tuning forks, sound healing through tuning forks. And tuning forks, each of them there's a scientific backing that she could really kind of like give you the full, better explanation than what I could. The specific ones that she works with are these ancient solfeggio frequencies. And these frequencies are based upon science, and they are based upon Pythagorean theorem. And, working with those is kind of like working, each of our chakras resonates at a certain frequency. So it's working with those solfeggio frequencies to bring in and harmonize or align them and upgrade, your chakras to what they should be, I guess, vibrating at. And it's all based upon the 369 vibration that exists within, everything. Nikola Tesla, Pythagorean theorem, again, much more her wheelhouse than mine. But she also works with the planetary frequencies. So it's also believed that each planet, Om resonates at 1 point something or something like that. I mean, like I said, not as much my area. But each frequency, each planet has a frequency. And, just like we all have our natal chart, where the planets were all aligned at the time of our birth, does greatly impact our metaphysical, our metaphysical body, our metaphysical healing. And so sometimes we're in need of certain planetary frequencies. And, sometimes when I'm working on a client, a lot of it is very intuitive. And I'll just suddenly get a flash of a planetary glyph. And because I don't work with the planetary frequencies, I understand that that's, my higher self sending in that planetary glyph, which is the connection to that planet, that frequency. Or it might give me a heads up that it's what that person needs. So I'll tell that person, you might want to go home and Google or go on YouTube and listen to the frequency for Pluto, because that's going to bring more of a harmonic alignment to you. So sound healing is one of the most powerful forms of healing that there is. It's just incredible, just because of how everything, think about music. How does that make you feel? And a lot of musical instruments used to be attuned to they called it the miracle frequency, the 432. Whereas then that got changed, I want to say sometime in the mid 1900s, and they started saying, no, instruments don't get attuned to that anymore. I think it was the 1930s. Now every musical instrument, I think, if I'm not mistaken, gets attuned to 440. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I want to say it's like 440. And it shifted, and there's this whole, I'm not going to get into it, but it's kind of like this whole conspiracy thing about how we're kind of taken away from the more harmonic vibration of what we should be at, that 432, versus what instruments are attuned to, and what we're supposed to be attuned to. So, there's a really amazing power in listening to, different sounds, different frequencies, and each frequency does something, releasing blockage and letting go of mental blockage, emotional wounds, things like that.
Yeah. So the one thing that I know that I'd hope other people would know is that when you do have a healing session like Reiki or any kind of energy healing, it's not a magical cure. Like, you're not completely fixed for the rest of your life. It's not a permanent fix. So, kind of what can we do in the meantime to take care of our own energy before our next session?
Yeah, that's a wonderful, wonderful question. And I'm really glad that you pointed that out too, because, we are healers, but we don't cure. That's not what we do. We can't make that claim. So what we basically do is we facilitate your body's own ability to heal itself. And so think of it as you've got a glass of water and you've got dirt sitting down in the bottom of that glass, and the more the more you pour water on top of it, it's going to kick up the sediment, kick up the debris. That's what an energy healer does for you. Kicks up the debris, helps you open up your chakras, balance your chakras, but it's up to you to maintain it. So how do you do that? One thing that you can always do is starting to be more mindful of your energy. Being mindful of how you feel around certain things. Be mindful of what your triggers are, how you react to things. A lot of circumstances, for example, I'll be in a wonderful mood. I'll go into the grocery store and it could be like pure chaos in that grocery store. I suddenly notice that I start getting anxiety. My heart starts to feel like it's pumping and beating really fast. I'm getting frustrated, getting agitated, and I just want to get out of there. And then I get home and I'm just in a miserable mood. Now, what happened was I absorbed a lot of the energy that was around me. I took on the energy, the thoughts, the emotions of others. Now, even if you're not an energy sensitive and an empath, you can walk into any place and you are merging with the energy that's already floating around in that space. And when we're walking to, past one another, we're kind of walking through each other's energy fields. So we're starting to get all this chaotic energy. So it's about now being mindful of how you react. So if you notice that I was fine and all of a sudden I'm not, ask yourself why. Did something happen that triggered you to feel that way? And if it wasn't something that you can claim for yourself, claim on your own, that you just maybe picked up energy that's not yours. You maybe took on some, static in your own energy field. So what you can do is you can, the easiest thing to do for everybody is to just ground yourself in nature. I know that sounds like, hippie loving tree hugging, but I am hippie loving tree hugging anyway. But really, there's something that, the power of nature. Just, think about how being out in the middle of the woods or going camping just feels, being out in the ocean, hearing the sounds of the rain. It's all very clearing, cleansing, healing. Nature has its own healing abilities. So going out and just kind of pushing it all down through your feet, grounding your energy and just feeling yourself like even growing your own tree roots down and pushing them into the earth and sending out anything that isn't yours, anything that you took on that doesn't belong to you, any discord that you might feel, just let it go, push it down into the earth. And you're just asking, you're not hurting the earth, because Mother Earth naturally transmutes and composts everything and puts it into an output of healing and, clearer energy, just like trees. So that's one thing that you could do. Mm-hmm. You could take a salt bath if you are able to do that, because that's a really powerful, easy way. And I don't mean salt in your kitchen. So you want to get some Himalayan salt, some pink Himalayan salt, or you want to get some Dead Sea salt. Those are the two best sorts of salt, because salt naturally purifies and removes toxins from our body. If you're on medications, you might want to be mindful, because it can actually remove medication from your body as well. So be mindful and, maybe check with your doctor first. If you are someone who takes a lot of medications, or just trial and error, be very careful and be mindful of it. But yeah, it's very detoxing, cleansing, clearing. Crystals can work the same way for us. They can ground us. Certain crystals ground, certain crystals take you up. So you gotta know the difference. Rule of thumb is usually anything dark colored, black, silver, red, gray, brown. Those crystals they're down, they're very earthy. And then some of the crystals that would take you up are the lighter colored crystals, more clear colored crystals. So that's going to amplify, enhance, and go really up high. So you might not want to work with those. Selenite. The biggest, it's a salt-based stone, even I think a form of gypsum. It is a naturally purifying stone, just like salt, anything salt-based. So obviously cannot go near any water. It will dissolve. But working with that, it can, it clears itself. It clears other crystals, and holding on to it can help just to clear your energy. If you're a person who doesn't have access to crystals, you could work with different herbs that can, like the ancient shamans, the ancient Native Americans, they worked with different herbs for their purifying properties. I know the biggest one to go to is white sage of Palo Santo. There's also a bit of a controversy with that. So a lot of, the natives kind of getting a little upset, I guess, about the, making sure it's, ethically harvested and the sacredness of those herbs. So you can also use other ones. And if you don't feel really comfortable doing that, such as rosemary, burning bay leaves, juniper or cedar, those are also really great ones to burn, dry them out. I wouldn't say, kind of go get them at the grocery store, but if you could get yourself a plant, or you can get some ones that are already dried and then burn them, just move them through your energy field. It's kind of like let the smoke move through your energy body. And, just like in ancient times, they would have those great big bonfires and move the cattle through the smoke. It was to remove parasites and any illness or discord. So these herbs naturally do the same thing. They're, proven to eliminate germs in the air, airborne pathogens, things like that.
Yeah. And I know that some people have, I don't know, I guess you would say an aversion to negative emotions, quote unquote, negative emotions. And I think there's a lot now of people, you got to repressing, I think, and a lot of people saying, positive vibes only, and that kind of thing. And I think there are a lot of people that are of the impression that we're only, like, especially healers like us, we're only positive all the time. And it's not true. And it's like, how do you work with that to make it so it's not negative energy, but it's more of a balance?
Yeah. And that's the key there. Balance. Everything in the universe is based on balance and polarity. So it's about bringing yourself, everything. You have to work with everything in balance. And, just like it's about, positive, it's also about, you have to work with the negative. So it's not like, oh my goodness, I picked something up, let me get it out of here. One reason that that's important is because anything that gets into your energy field can eventually create more energy blockage. It can eventually create, so think about your life force. Once your life force is cut off, what happens is then you start to create blockages into your physical body, and that can eventually lead to illness. And you can become sick when you're taking on too much negative energy, too much chaos and toxins all the time, so that can eventually happen. So it is important to be mindful and to deal with that as soon as you notice. And it's just like it's something that we develop as a spiritual hygiene. The same way you would take your shower and, or get your hair done or shave your legs is the same way that you should clear your energy field, is that you should be mindful of, what you took on today, be mindful of your words, Does that mean that you're not supposed to have those moments? Absolutely not. It's important to deal in the shadow as much as you deal in the light, because we are both shadow and light. And you cannot get to working with your light or being in the light until you get into the shadow. And one of my main phrases is, you got to go in order to come out. So you really have to go into that energy. It's important to feel. If you feel like you are having a really crap day and you don't want to speak to anybody, and you don't want to deal with anybody, and you don't want to be nice to anybody, well, now mindfulness because it's not okay to project, but it is okay for you to feel what you're feeling. And actually, you really need to feel what you're feeling. You really got to deal with that negativity in the sense of you want to feel it. You want to own it completely. You want to understand it. You want to look for its roots. Where did it come from? What triggered it? What is it triggering in me? This is an important part of balance. This is an important part of maintaining that clear flow of energy. We have situations trigger us on purpose. Everything that happens in your world, everything that happens in the universe is all, there's no such thing as coincidence. It's all synchronistic. Everything is symbolic in life. So when we're getting triggered by things, it's to bring awareness to something that was within us, just sitting there silent, not being dealt with. And when something's sitting there silent and not being dealt with, it can eventually implode or explode in a really messy, toxic way. And again, the worst part of that is coming onto your physical body as a disease or an illness. So you want to deal with it. You want to feel it. You don't want to bury it down. I am what we would quote unquote call a light worker or a way shower, but I work with shadow energy and I have my own shadows, and I have days upon days where I cannot do anything for anybody. I need to focus on myself, and I need to deal with these nasty things that might just have popped up, or a situation that triggered me and I felt, out of myself. It took me out of myself for a second. Now I have to deal with that. And it's okay for me to feel it. It's okay to not feel good all the time. We're not supposed to walk around feeling good all the time. Hopefully, we can get there, but that's part of evolution. That's part of ascension, and it's part of the process. That's why we're here on Earth, is to go through human experiences, feeling things, but we have to take accountability for them too. So I think it's a balance. Everything is a balance,
Yeah.
And working with your shadows is how you maintain it.
Yeah, because for me, I'd say getting to the root of the things that are bothering you, identifying it and getting to the root of that helps to move that out of your energetic field, helps to get rid of that emotion for yourself by processing it. And I mean, it's never going to completely go away. You are still going to have negative emotions here and there, but I feel as you go along, it becomes a little bit easier to identify and feel it and process it, and then let it go. Absolutely.
Yeah. You're absolutely on. There's in history, you see these spirals all over. They've created spirals. The ancients would engrave them into stones. They're in trees, creating spiral labyrinths and things like that. And there's a reason for that, because life is not a journey of, just straight and narrow. Life is a spiral. And the reason they say that is because there's many reasons, but part of that is because we experience things in cycles. And so when you have a situation happen and it triggers, just a complete chaotic event experience in your life, or even within yourself, the point is, like you said, to look for the root. Where did this come from? What did this trigger? Is this part of an old pattern? Where did this come from? Did it come from my childhood? Did it come from something that happened in my life? Is it even coming from past lifetimes? You don't know what you could be carrying ancestral patterns that you're not even yours, but they're impacting you because you're carrying them. So that's a little bit more difficult to work through, but over time you get there. But dealing with your own first here and now, and then you heal it, right? And you move through it and you move beyond it. A couple of years from now, you might suddenly find yourself getting triggered in the same exact sort of a scenario coming back. See, you've moved now from this part of the spiral to the outward part of the spiral, or the middle of the spiral. So now you revisit that same point, but you're not on the same level anymore. So now you're going to experience it differently because you're different. And while you still might engage in the battle or whatever it might be, you go through it again, you work through it the same way and you keep moving on. And by hopefully the third time is the charm. Some of us get it many more times because we need it. You keep getting the opportunity to learn from it. And that's the thing. There's no right or wrong. There's no I failed or I did it right. It's you get more and more of an opportunity to overcome, to become stronger in regards to this. And then you finally get to that outermost point of that spiral and you're like, this is happening again, but it has no power over me anymore. And I recognize the lesson in it. And I'm actually now so grateful for it because it took me here. It brought me to this point. See what I'm saying? So you get to this whole different place consciously. And that's how working with shadows works. You just move through it layer by layer.
It's all cycles.
That's right.
So Stags, we threw a lot at you. What do you think?
Wow, I've been making my whole list of stuff. Going, wow,
are you still with us?
Yeah, very much so. I've got this big list of stuff, though. I think I'm going to have to narrow it down to all sorts of. Yeah, so I'll see if I can kill two birds with one stone with some. So one of the questions that sprung to mind, and bear in mind this is all new to me, so there's like loads of bits. And hang on, this is interesting. But so I'll start at the beginning. So you briefly touched on the history of stuff, and then when you were talking about being in nature as well and saying that it's very natural in nature, would I be right in saying that it's no, actually, so I'm not sure. Let me put it either way. I'll give you both the options and I won't try. So is it something that is very natural to us and maybe that we've lost, or is it something that we're gradually working towards and something that is we're sort of evolving to use this? Is it something that we're moving towards, or something that we've moved away from and now are moving back to?
I definitely think that it's something that we've lost. We've, as a culture, society, race, we've become so desensitized to everything. We've really become so in the hustle and bustle. How many people go for walks anymore? How many people actually notice the trees and the sort of trees that are on their block? Each tree has a metaphysical component to it where it does something different for you. Same thing with flowers. I do think this is something that the ancients, our ancient ancestors, different civilizations, they only had nature. So this was their main source of healing. They understood that Earth provided everything that we needed, including medicine, including healing. So I think as we became more, we've become much more fast-paced in living. And, even with having to, everyone having to work certain hours and, this is, when they put things on, so I won't get into too much of it, but, think about it. You've got to, this minimum wage is what you have to make in order to live. So you've got to work this many hours in order to make ends meet. So we've got these these structures and systems imposed upon us that kind of force us to focus only on what we can, what we can hold, what we can work with in our hands, what we have, what we need. And that's just it. We've moved so far away from nature and what nature and Earth naturally does for us. But we are, I do feel like, as a collective, becoming much more aware. In the very beginning of this show, Brenna had said, one of the most popular, we'll talk about one of the more popular energy healing modalities is Reiki. Think about what I said when I first became a practitioner in 2008. Hardly anyone around me had ever heard of it, let alone myself. So we are becoming so much more open, so much more receptive, and so many more people are connecting into nature. So many more people are understanding crystals. I follow so many crystal sellers and their shows that they do, and the amount of people who have no idea what crystals are doing for them metaphysically, they just are so excited to buy them and collect them and have them in their home. And I think that's just amazing. Whether they know or not, it doesn't matter because crystals are working with them and for them. So I think we are moving back to it. I think we are coming back, like the spiral.
Yeah, good answer. Yeah. I suppose I could just touch on the higher self thing as well. Is that something that we should be like, because I was thinking about the energies and I was thinking, okay, so what energies am I feeling? And I thought, is there is there a sense that we should be like connecting in with the higher self, and when you're in a situation, so that you can kind of get a sort of bird's eye view is possibly not the best way of putting it, or something like that? Or is that,
absolutely, that's a fantastic question. Yeah, absolutely. And well, essentially, you never really have to connect in, because it just is, it's you, but if you think about it, it's like the as above, so below. This is our physical presence, our physical reality and understanding. But then we have our higher mind, and that's the higher self, the soul self. And part of having like oracle card readings and intuitive readings, at least the way that I work with that for others, is that we're calling in the higher self of that person to give them the bird's eye view of life as they can't see it, and like, here's your path, here's your snapshot in time. This is the best possible route for you. And that's what your higher self does. It is your guide. It is your spiritual eyes. It's your truth. It's your soul's truth. And so it can give you the best possible direction. You have free will as a human. So you can say, nope, I'm going to make the other way. I'm going to go the other way. And that's our right. We have free will. But our higher self does. It's our divine advice.
Wow. Okay. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's enough questions for the moment, isn't it? I think I'm going to process that for a while.
I know.
I mean, I have more. I've got a list of more, but I think
hey, well,
I need to deal with it.
Well, I'll piggyback off of that, and I'll ask a question that I think has come up, and you might have actually have this question on your list. Is something I know because I am one and I understand this now, but some people might not know. What is an empath?
That's another great question. You guys are full of great questions. An empath is somebody who can, basically is your energy sensitive. And what that means is, so we have many different psychic abilities. People hear psychic and the first thing they think is fortune teller. And that's really not it. Yes, you can have psychics who can foresee the future, the perceived future, because future isn't set in stone. It's based upon our actions, our realities, our free will and choices. However, there's many different abilities that make you psychic. And the most popular one that everybody knows about is clairvoyancy, and the ability to clearly see with our spiritual eyes, see what is beyond the physical. But then there's something called clairsentience, and that is, in essence, empathy. And it is the ability to clearly feel and sense intuitively with your energy field, with your energy body. And so someone who is clairsentient or an empath has empathy for others, which means you take on the feeling of others. Your heart center is so open that you feel soul deep, and you feel other people's energy, you feel their moods, you feel their thoughts, and you take them on as your own. One of the biggest signs that you are an empath is, and I remember this years ago, and it always sticks with me, because before I was as aware or awakened as, we're always awakening, by the way. So I'm not going to declare myself as awakened. We're always awakening. But before I was even remotely anywhere near I am, I didn't know what empathy was. And I remember watching movies and I would cry and just be so wounded by whatever was going on. It hurt me in my heart as though it was me. And I would be so bothered and disturbed that I would have to pull myself out of, like, Jamie, this was a fictional story. It wasn't you who got left in the movie, And it was like, I didn't understand that then. I was and even other people, like I can't see anyone else hurt. I can feel animals when they are hurt or upset. It's things like that. But how I actually found out that I was an empath was through Reiki. I didn't know what an empath was. And I took my first degree. And what happens is, during a class, is your teacher, once you get attuned to the energy, you got to start the energy flowing through yourself. So your teacher often has you practice on the other students. You all take turns practicing. And I happened to be working on a student that I had, unbeknownst to me, suffered from severe anxiety and panic attacks, and I had no idea. So I'm moving through the chakras like you're supposed to, and I get to the heart chakra, and all of a sudden I start feeling this unusual feeling in my heart. And it started feeling, at first it felt just a little tight. And then it started feeling like a lot of pressure. And then it felt like somebody was stuck my whole chest inside of a vice and was just pushing it together. And I started to feel like I couldn't breathe. And I didn't know what was happening to me. So I finally, as I'm still with my hands on the woman, I look over to my teacher and I say, am I supposed to also be feeling something? And she said, what do you mean? What are you feeling? And I said, well, I feel like I can't breathe. And the more that I tried to talk, the worse it got. And she was like, take your hands off immediately. And sure enough, my teacher was versed enough to tell me, honey, are you an empath? And I said, I don't know what that is. And she explained to me, and sure enough, she put her hands on me and she helped me release it and to understand that I am that energy sensitive, that, I not only feel others' pain, but the point of an empath, the beauty of an empath is that we take that pain and we can transmute it. And we can turn it into a positive and release it, that we don't hold it. It's not ours. We don't keep it, but we can also walk into a room and change the energy. You have this natural healing energy within your own aura. Your heart is so wide open that you are meant to feel deeply, because that helps you be compassionate to others. And that's the point of humanity. Is we're meant to feel compassion for each other. We're meant to love each other. We're meant to help each other through feeling, through understanding. So an empath is an amazing thing.
Oh yeah. I remember my first, before I even knew what that was. And it was somebody, like for you, it was somebody else that pointed that out to me. Just kind of had this, a lot of people would say, oh yeah, you've got a gift. I'm like, what does that even mean? And then, taking on other people's emotions, not realizing that, and thinking that it was just me, it was my, mental health or whatever, panic attacks, stuff like that, just having it build up so much. And then finally realizing, someone actually pointed out to me, oh, you're an empath. And they're like, do you realize how open you are right now? Like that's not healthy. And having to deal with that, and having to go through that journey, that process of dealing with all of that stuff.
Yeah. And many people will say, it doesn't feel like a blessing. It feels like a curse. And it can feel that way until you understand it. When you understand what you're capable of and what you can do, and then how you can be mindful, because obviously that's important. Be mindful about protecting your energy. And when she said you're too open, not to disagree, I think that you can't be too open, but I understand what she means in the sense of you're not filtering, you're not shielding your energy, because, obviously you don't want to be on emotional overload and just taking every single thing in that'll come to you, because that's what we do. We're like, our heart is like a vacuum cleaner and it just wants to suck everything into us, but shielding your energy for an empath is incredibly important. Everything we talked about here today, regular energy healings, keeping yourself, even becoming an empath should possibly, I don't like to say the word should, but I think it would be really beneficial for an empath to become an energy healer, so they can also understand energy and work on themselves, and help others that might be going through it as well. Because that's the point, is to help others, and help others. And, the salt bath, the crystals, the smudging, all of that is so important for everybody, but especially an empath.
Yeah. I see Stags there meticulously taking notes. Anything you'd like to share with the class?
No, there's loads. I mean, if you look, I've got quite a lot of stuff that I've been writing. Yeah, I'm sort of making notes of the herbs. The 369 thing was interesting as well. I was kind of intrigued as to what that was. Is that...
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of information on it because I don't understand it in the way that my partner does. And I said she works more with it, but it's basically, from what I understand, and please forgive me if I'm not 100% accurate with this, but what I understand is that basically everything in the universe is based on vibration in patterns or sequences of the 3, the 6, and the 9. And anything that vibrates based upon those frequencies is said to be like in a harmonic, I don't know if it's the word is, I just heard intuitively convergence, so like a harmonic convergence or harmonic alignment. So if I would definitely recommend, if you want to look more into that, I would look more into Pythagorean theorem. I know the Fibonacci spiral sequence is based upon that 3, 6, 9 patterning. And I think a lot of the sacred geometric patternings that are, if you look into a flower's shape, it's the Fibonacci spiral in there. And a lot of it is based upon that, but definitely look more into Pythagorean theorem, or even the solfeggio frequencies. They're based on
that. Note of that as well. Yeah. Yeah. It's because I'm always for some reason, I'm always multiples of 3 or something that always apply. So whenever if I'm exercising or if I'm walking or counting things, I'm always like, okay, if it's a multiple of 3, it seems important for some reason. So it just, that seemed
very important. It is very important. I work with numerology a little bit, and my own personal understanding of numbers and how they speak. And the number 3 to me always signifies the birthing of a cycle. It's like it takes 3 for a full cycle. And so it's like the birthing of a new cycle, but it's also the power of creation energy. So birthing something into creation. And then by the time you get to the 9 represents to me the completion of a major cycle. So it's like the power of 3 cycles fully coming to completion there, but it's also like achievement and leveling up. So yeah, the power of the 3 really very special.
Yeah.
Well, this is, I mean, like I said, I've got lists of stuff, but
you're in the rabbit hole now.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff, isn't there? Yeah, and the herbs as well. I'm interested in that as well. I mean, crystals have always I've probably touched on this before, but I had a hoarding disorder, and one of the things I've always had like stones, and I've always picked up stones and things like that all my life, and crystals have always been something that I've been fascinated in, although I've never really had much sort of understanding of stuff. But it's always been a case of, oh wow, I just feel very, very drawn. But now talking about herbs, it's herbs, isn't it, in the States? People are always laughing when I say herbs because it sounds like somebody's name, but herbs over here. But yeah, so again, I'm going, okay, so this is something interesting that feels very easy to bring into your everyday life, the idea of so that's it's amazing.
I mean, I know, like I said, again, it's so important to, when you're looking at certain herbs such as Palo Santo and white sage, because they are so sacred. The Palo Santo tree, I want to say it's Peru, and it is a sacred holy tree. So again, very sacred to the indigenous people. So you always want to make sure that when you're getting you're looking at where it's coming from, naturally, ethically sourced. But Palo Santo has to be my absolute favorite. There's something really pure about it when you smell it. I actually have a piece of it right here. I can show you.
I don't know what Palo Santo is.
It's a piece of wood.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Comes from the tree, and it's actually, sometimes if you get it before it's fully dried out, you actually still have the sap. When you try to burn it, you won't be able to burn it right away. But they mainly make it like this. You can get it in some different chips or sometimes little formations or something. But it works in the same way that sage clears your energy field. But with sage, I always recommend for the really dense, heavy stuff. So if somebody's sick in your home, and instead of breaking out the Lysol with all the chemicals that you're spraying around your house, you might want to break out the sage or an equivalent to sage if you cannot get it ethically sourced. And you use that through your house for all the really heavy, dense stuff. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I noticed intuitively or energetically before anyone ever told me this was I noticed that sage kind of just took the energy out, and it was very raw. Like, it doesn't play around. Mm-hmm. Palo Santo seems to be, I'm all about balance. Everything has to have balance. So I feel like if you're going to take out, you've got to replace, right? So now you want to bring in some sound or something to replace what you've just removed and bring in some high frequency. Palo Santo, it removes and clears in a lighter way than what sage does. So it's not as dense, and it's, like I said, for heavy, dense stuff, I'd recommend the sage. But then this also replaces with a very holy, high vibrational energy. And that's just the way that I can explain it from experience. And there's a lot of intuitive people who have spoke on it. And, there's more connected to the indigenous people that worked with it and why they did, but it is considered a holy wood. And it's supposed to only be taken from trees that are naturally felled, not trees being cut down for it. Okay.
Interesting, because you've used the word intuitive a few times, and I think that is one of the things that sort of struck me about this, is that a lot of these things do seem intuitive, you know, like with herbs and that sort of thing. You know, there is a few years ago, well, a couple of times I've walked the Camino de Santiago, which I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a pilgrimage in the north of Spain. It's about 500 miles, and it's been, I think people have been walking it for 1,000 years or more.
Wow.
And there's a big thing on that about rosemary as well. That's, a lot of people will take a sprig of rosemary, and it's very uplifting. You know, I would hike and I would find a sprig somewhere and put it in my lapel as I was hiking, and it would really lift the spirits and stuff. So it's interesting hearing this sort of, it seems to be something that people have intuitively picked up on from a lot of different areas.
That's right. Yeah. I love that. Oh, I didn't know about that pilgrimage, and I'm actually very much into pilgrimages, and every year, hopefully this year I'll be able to do that because of the, COVID and then not being able to travel. But every year I actually take a pilgrimage to Glastonbury, England, and walk the Michael and Mary ley lines, and, stop those sacred sites. So yeah, very beautiful. But
you'll have to say hi when you pop over next.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll have to do a meetup with Jamie over in Glastonbury.
Yeah. Glasto party.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. But yeah, so a lot of this it's intuitive. A lot of this is, we remember, our cells and our DNA hold memory. And this is things that just come second nature to us. We've just gotten away from it. We've forgotten. The more that you turn that little light on, the more you start to really, you kind of like, it's like you jump down the rabbit hole, because you really start getting called more and more to it, and you start remembering more and more. And even like mudras, that's another tool. Mudras, or, energy healing, we work with your hands and your palm chakras. I won't go into too much, but we do them naturally, and we don't know that we do. And these are ancient healing technique or tool that you use just by doing this as a mudra, and each of them have different functions, and we do this and talk like this all the time, and we don't even realize it.
Wow,
so incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've been doing this sort of thing quite a lot throughout the chat. So now I'm going to be, people are going to be looking, oh wow, what was he doing then?
What mudra was that you just did?
I'm going to say this was the This was the inquisitive mudra. No, I'm kidding.
All right. So thank you, Jamie, for coming on. I appreciate you being here. Any last thoughts? Any last questions?
Obviously just want to put out here that these are my own personal experiences. I think, spiritualism, quote unquote, because I think it's just a label that we put on coming back into our own divine essence. It's an individual journey. It is your own individual truth, your own individual experiences and knowing. So, as with everything, you should always just take what resonates and discard the rest. These are just my own experiences and, things that I've found along the way. And, if they plant a seed and they work for you, fantastic. If they don't, then that's okay too. Find your own way and what works.
We're always learning. We're always growing.
That's right. Absolutely. When we stop, we don't have to be here anymore.
All right. Thank you again, Jamie. I'm glad we can get you on here and talk. Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you both so much for having me. I greatly appreciate that and hope that it helps.
Thank you. All right. Have a great day.
Take care.
You too. So what did you take from that? Like anything really resonate with you?
There was honestly, that one was there was a lot of things that were kind of parallel to, I think, thoughts that just sort of spring naturally to the mind, but maybe you don't bring into sort of focus. I think just on a natural human level, a lot of stuff there I was like, okay, yeah, that's interesting. That's kind of makes sense in a way that I didn't. Yeah, but it's brought things into focus. So there was a lot of stuff. The stuff about the higher self, the ideas of herbs or crystals or things like that, just approached in a very sort of matter of fact, but sort of, yeah, intuitive was the word that we used quite a lot, wasn't it, in this? It kind of, a lot of it felt intuitively right, which was really interesting. And the 3 levels of Reiki, that sounds impressive. I like the idea of being able to do it from a distance as well. That's I mean, how far though?
I haven't had much opportunity to do that, but I'm just gonna have to hone that.
Yeah, it's quite a skill to have, isn't it?
Yeah, I gotta work on that a little bit.
Never use your powers for ill, though.
What's that?
Never use your powers for ill, though.
No, only for good. I promise.
Yeah.
Like Superman.
Yeah. I think, you see, I was thinking, oh, maybe I could use it on, do a bit of Reiki on Boxy. And then the higher self and permission came. I thought, there's no way. This Boxy's my cat, for any of the listeners. Boxy's not going to be interested in any Reiki. I already know that our answer's going to be no.
My cats like to be around me when I'm doing Reiki on myself, but yeah, animal Reiki is different. It's a little less intense than the human, because yeah, it's hard to keep them in one place to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Foxy has a sort of intuitive energy that whenever I want to do anything that involves her staying still, then she doesn't want to stay still. So yeah.
That's a cat thing. Yeah. I'm better at being a cat herder, but it's a pretty interesting skill. That takes a lot of time and a lot of patience.
maybe a cat mother. That brings us back to the beginning, doesn't it?
Oh, there you go.
You're not the listener's mother, but you are a mother to cats.
As I said, I ain't your mama, but I am a cat mama. And we'll leave it at that. Have a good day.
You